In this clip, I will remove the grain from the CG and regrain the overall shot. So, if you look closely to your image, you can see that the image has quite a lot of grain, but the constant background behind hasn't any. So in the previous module in After Effects, I added grain to the background to match the grain of the CG plate. However, here, let's do this a bit differently. If you want to follow along, you can open the file m6_01 in the new directory. Now, let's drop a Denoise node and hook it up right after the Camera 2 Beauty Ring node. Let's move the noise sample window in the middle. There is not really good places to get a good print of the noise because everything is moving quite a lot. So here, that should do the job for now. Next, if you look closely at the gramophone here, and if you toggle on and off this effect with the D key, we can see it does a pretty decent job. Maybe you can increase a bit the denoise amount, but don't go too far. The default settings for that node are pretty good for our shots. Of course, when playing the shot, it's not perfect, but if we add back some grain, it will kind of do the job, trust me. So let's drop a grain node and hook it up after the merge. And now I'll pick the Kodak 5218 preset and I will reduce the blue intensity. So if you want to reduce the overall grain as well, you can struggle trying to adjust the red, green and blue intensity. But if you think you found a great balance of intensity for the three colors, but you still want to adjust the overall visibility of the grain, here is a little trick. This node applied the grain according to the alpha channel, and depending on how is opaque the alpha channel, the grain will be more or less visible. So what you can do here is to drop a grade before the grain node and select the alpha channel here, and by reducing the gain, you will reduce the amount of grain. Don't forget to shuffle it back to white after the grain is being applied. Also, if you look at the original image, you will notice that the grain is more visible in the dark values than in the bright values. If you want to reproduce that, it's easy. Let's use the luminance of this image to drive that. We can create a keyer node and use the luminance output of these keyer nodes in the mask input of the grain node. This will make sure we are removing more grain for the bright values. Okay, so we have a quite efficient setup for the grain here. Let me clean the script a little bit. Adding a dot here and placing all this in a backdrop that I'll call grain. Great! Let's add a nice depth of field, and let's do that in the next clip.